All righty. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. How is everybody doing today? I hope you're doing well, guys. Unfortunately, I'm not here today. I am getting the vaccine, the second dose of the vaccine, so that's why I am not in class today. But I just want to take and make this video so that we go over the Articles of Confederation really quick, that workbook assignment. That's the plan for today. That's what I want to do today. And I want to start class the way we normally do, and the way I would have if I were here. So, to start us off, if anybody knows Andrea, if you would like to wish her a happy birthday, her birthday is today, in fact. So if you know her and would like to wish her a happy birthday, I'm sure she'd really appreciate it. If you don't or you don't want to, that's fine too. But if you would like to wish her a happy birthday, I know she'd really appreciate it, guys. Okay. Um, so the plan for today is to review the workbook assignment to discuss the Articles of Confederation and the problems with it. That's what I want to look at today, and that's what I want to talk about today. Like I said, we're going to go over the Articles of Confederation assignment. The Unit 6 key terms 1 through 9 are going to be due Thursday, March 4th. You guys were assigned that yesterday, so please make sure you get that done and have that completed so that you aren't missing that and aren't losing out on the credit. All right, guys. So that's the plan. That's what we're going to do today. If you did not finish the workbook packet, what I would like you to do, I'd like you to go ahead and pause the video right now and finish that workbook packet and put in your answers for the workbook packet from the digital lesson from the 23rd and the 24th. And make sure you have that done. Make sure you have that completed. All right, guys? So go ahead and pause the video right now. Okay. So I added that little pause in there so that if you needed to pause the video, nobody missed what I said and what was coming up. So what we're going to do and what we're going to look at is the Articles of Confederation reading. And we're going to answer these questions. And I'm going to go over these questions and expand a little bit on some of the things that are in this so that we understand the Articles of Confederation a little bit. I am going to show you guys a couple of videos and have a couple of videos for you guys for Monday that'll kind of go through this story and explain this story. But I want to make sure that we hit on some of the important parts now, just so to give us a base for when we watch those videos and we review the Articles of Confederation. All right, guys? So, believe it or not, before the Constitution and before the national government that we have today, we had a completely different government and had a completely different system of government than we do today. During the Revolutionary War, the United States needed to kind of create a government and have a government that helped to kind of run it. And the government that the United States created and that the founding fathers created at first were the Articles of Confederation. And they got these ideas from a couple of different places. Where did Americans find ideas for their government? They found their ideas in the English Bill of Rights and the Magna Carta. Both of these documents limited the power of the king. Now, as we know and as we are well aware, the colonists were fighting the Revolutionary War to throw off the rule of the king in Parliament. They didn't want a government that ruled over them with an iron fist and with absolute authority. That's what they felt like the king did. That's what they felt like Parliament did. So they took their ideas of limiting the power of the king and they put that into the Articles of Confederation. And we're going to really see how they did that. But a lot of the ideas that they had about government came from the English Bill of Rights and the Magna Carta, and a little bit came from the Enlightenment also. And by kind of the fact that the Enlightenment happened before the English Bill of Rights, that's where the English Bill of Rights came from too. So there was a large influence from the Enlightenment. Okay. Now, Connecticut is going to be the first state to produce a government plan considered to be the first written constitution in the colonies. Okay. And other states are going to do that too. But eventually, when you have the revolution, the colonies when they form into states and when they form into the United States of America, they're going to need a government that is established to represent them and represent the people. Okay. Now, this question here is an opinion question. And you can use the information from this paragraph here to really back up what you think on this question. And that paragraph says, under the Articles of Confederation, Congress had limited powers to guard the people's freedoms. Each state had one vote in Congress. Congress had powers, but it could ask the states only for money and soldiers. States could refuse these requests. After some conflicts, the articles were sent to each state for ratification or official approval. All the states approved and formed the first American government. Okay? So obviously, after reading this, we can tell that the states had more power than the federal government. Each state had one vote in Congress. Congress had powers, but could ask the states only for money and soldiers. That's all it could ask the states for. And the money to run the government and the army to defend the government, to defend the national government, came from the states. And the states could refuse to send those things to the government, send those things to the federal government, which proves that the states had more power than the federal government did. Okay, so that was originally the government that was set up by the founding fathers. And we can see that desire to not have an executive, that desire to not have a king or a president or a government that ruled over the states that existed, and that they really kind of pulled not only from the revolution. There was a large influence from the revolution in the fact of what they had gone through and what the king and parliament had put them through. But you also see that influence from the Magna Carta and the English Bill of Rights, where they did away with a king or a president altogether and just had a Congress or a House of Representatives and a Senate. Now, in the Articles of Confederation, the House of Representatives and the Senate didn't exist. It was one big legislative body that had representatives from the 13 states in it, and they made decisions. But ultimately, the states could refuse any decisions that Congress made in the Articles of Confederation. Okay? So obviously, the states have more power than the federal government. And based on that, it's up to you to decide whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, and whether you would have supported the Articles of Confederation or you would not have supported the Articles of Confederation. Now, we're going to see in a minute that the Articles of Confederation has its own problems. Okay, and the way that laws were made and the way that decisions were made under the Articles of Confederation by the national government is going to create a lot of problems. Okay, and we're going to see that in the next section. But one good thing that the Articles of Confederation did do was to create a way to add more states to the United States. And the way they did that was the Land Ordinance of 1785 and the Northwest Ordinance of 1787. And the requirement they put on that was when the population of a territory hit 60,000, its settlers, 60,000 people, its settlers could draft their own constitution and ask to join the Union. So that is the sentence that you should have underlined to be able to show, to explain when a territory could ask to join the Union. So that was the one positive and the one good thing that the Articles of Confederation did. But the Articles of Confederation created a lot of problems. Okay? There were some weaknesses with the Articles of Confederation. For example, the Articles of Confederation provided no way to raise an army. Because of that, the United States had a hard time guarding against foreign threats. Okay? Those are two issues right there that are weaknesses in the Articles of Confederation. Also, at the same time, the British also forced American merchants to pay high tariffs. As more merchants increased prices to pay them. The U.S. has no way to regulate trade and to prevent the British or to have a response to the British closing many British ports to U.S. ships. They don't have a way to kind of stop the British or a response that is going to make the British not want to close their ports to U.S. ships. And as a result, they don't really have a way to defend themselves and a way to kind of throw their weight around a little bit, if you will, to prevent people from really kind of bullying them or kind of influencing their decisions and stuff like that, guys. So those are a couple of the issues and a couple of the problems that exist. And now, because of the fact that the British closed many of their ports to U.S. ships and had high tariffs on goods that came into England, U.S. goods that came into England, U.S. merchants increased prices that led to U.S. merchants having to pay higher prices, which meant that they took and they sent those costs to the customers and they charged higher prices for their own goods, which is why tariffs hurt U.S. citizens, because the cost of goods went up. Okay? The cost of U.S. goods for every U.S. citizen went up. All right? So that is a major issue. Those are two major issues that arose from the Articles of Confederation. They have no way to regulate trade. They have no way to raise or lower tariffs on goods coming into the United States. So they can't make it so that U.S. goods are competitive with British ones. And that's going to definitely hurt the economy as well. Okay? Underline the sentence that lists problems facing the states. Trade problems among the states, war debt, and a poor economy hurt the states. And the national government has no way to influence that or do anything about that. They are weaker than the states. So the national government has no way to make the lives of people or make the lives of the states easier. Okay? And that's going to be a huge problem, especially when the depression shows up, when a depression shows up and causes the prices of goods to go way up and the lives and the cost of things to also go way up. But the debts of people are going to go way up as well. And it's going to be very difficult to be able to pay for things, especially since the value of money is going way down. Okay? So, what conditions caused the depression in the United States? They printed more money, which caused the value of that money to go down. And it caused the price of goods to go up. Okay, which is going to result in goods being more expensive, but people not having really enough money to buy things and pay for things. And the loss of trade is also going to make it difficult for people to make money, which is going to lead to a depression where people don't have a lot of money to spend and can't afford to even necessarily pay their bills. Does that make sense, guys? So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. That's going to lead to a lot of economic hardship where states are going to take and confiscate land because people are not going to be able to pay the taxes that states are forcing on them and states are forcing them to pay. So as more and more farmers, as more and more people lose their homes because they can't sell goods, they can't make money because of the loss of trade with England, and the value of money is going down while the cost of goods are going up, that's going to make it hard for people to pay the taxes that each state is charging them, which is going to lead to many people losing their homes and losing their farms because they can't pay the taxes. That's going to lead to a lot of farmers becoming angry. And the fact that the states are forcing them to sell their land and forcing them to sell their property to pay taxes, that's going to make a lot of the farmers very, very angry. And it's going to force a lot of farmers that are, kind of middle class to become poor farmers and not be able to own their own farms and make them very angry and cause them to rebel. And that's how we end up at Shays' Rebellion, where a guy by the name of Daniel Shays leads an uprising against the high taxes in Massachusetts and the heavy debt that exists in Massachusetts. And he actually marches on the courthouse. Him and his followers march on the courthouse to force Massachusetts to stop taking land away from farmers. The national government, because of the Articles of Confederation, has no way to put down this rebellion, and it falls on the state of Massachusetts to raise the militia and put down this rebellion. As soon as the founding fathers see this, they realize that there is a huge problem and a massive problem with that. The government should be able to put down rebellions that exist in the United States, but they can't because they don't have the power to do it. They have to ask the states for soldiers, and they can't do that, okay? Or the state might refuse to send it, but they can't force a state to send soldiers, and they don't have soldiers of their own. So this leads the founding fathers to realize that there is a huge, massive problem, and they need to take and change or get rid of the Articles of Confederation. And that's exactly what they are going to do. And they are going to create what we know today as the Constitution, eventually after a process of debate and kind of argument back and forth, and eventually voting and ratifying the Constitution. And we're going to talk more about that when we start talking about the Constitution. But we can see that the Articles of Confederation and the first government of the United States has a lot of problems and a lot of issues, and we can see why. All right. So that wraps up what I wanted to talk about, guys, and what I wanted to do in class today. So if you want to work on it, there is still time left in class, and you want to work on your Unit 6 key terms 1 through 9, you can absolutely do that. If you have already finished that, if you have any other digital work, feel free to do that too. But please behave for Mrs. Jaggers. She's really, really nice, and she's helping me out. So please make sure you behave. If I hear any issues that have happened in class today, there will be consequences for those issues. So please make sure you behave, guys. Please make sure with the last few minutes of class, you listen to what she asks you to do, and you behave for Mrs. Jaggers, all right? So with that said, guys, have a fantastically awesome day, and I will see you guys next week. Enjoy your weekend. Have a great day, guys.